Joining me now to talk more about the Fix-It Act is one of those co-sponsors, Representative Kevin Kiley, a Republican from California. Good evening, Congressman.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. First, tell us a little bit more about this bill, how it would work, and why you think it's the best solution at this time.
Well, I think that it's unacceptable that we're going to have 22 million Americans who, in about a month, are going to see this massive increase in their healthcare premiums. And so I think it is incumbent upon us in Congress to act to make sure that doesn't happen. I mean, we're talking about independent contractors, we're talking about small business owners, small business employees, retirees who are not yet eligible for Medicare, who are going to be hit with massive premium payment increases, thousands of dollars that many of them simply cannot afford. And so what myself and Sam Liccardo, who's my colleague on the other side of the aisle from California, have come up with is a bill that I think is a good compromise. It says we're going to offer a runway here, a temporary extension for 2 years, but we're also going to do it in a fiscally responsible way, as you just outlined, by cracking down on overpayments to insurers and on fraud, and by imposing reasonable cost controls to assure that these tax credits go to the folks that really need it. We'll pay for the 2-year extension so it doesn't increase the deficit in the process.
Yeah, look, it's been a stalemate for so long. It's good to see that there are folks out there that are proposing new acts and bills to help out those 22 million Americans, as you pointed out. Look, we just heard from President Trump, who's proposing actually extending these subsidies, but it doesn't seem as if he's got the support of others, particularly within his own party, House Speaker Mike Johnson, namely, who believes that there are not enough Republicans out there that are supporting what the president wants to do. Who do you think has the power here? Is it the president or is it House Speaker Mike Johnson?
Well, ultimately, it's a majority of Congress. And, I think that the House will work its will. You have enough bipartisan support on both sides for doing something here to provide relief to the folks who should not be the ones that get punished for the failure of Congress to control the cost of healthcare. So for those who say that we have a system that isn't working well, where costs continue to spiral out of control in this vicious cycle, I agree with that analysis. But you shouldn't have 22 million Americans be forced to pay the price for that dysfunction. So what our proposal does is it says, all right, we will extend these subsidies, but only in a temporary way, so that gives us sort of the urgency to act over the next 2 years to tackle the broader issues of access to healthcare and affordability in this country. So it doesn't give everyone everything that they want. It probably doesn't give anyone everything that they want. But I think that it has enough elements to it that enough people can support that we can get majority support in the House and the Senate and get this to the president's desk. And as you said, the president doesn't want to see people see this huge increase in costs either.
So what is the president's strategy, or what would your strategy be to get Speaker Johnson on board if he seems so firmly planted in the ground?
Well, we're going to certainly advocate in every way we can for him to bring some bills to the floor. It doesn't necessarily have to be the one that Sam Liccardo and I are offering, but it's gaining broad bipartisan support. It has a lot of momentum, and I think that it has the key elements that any deal will need to have. But, there are other ways that you can actually advance legislation. So that's why I say one way or another, when you have the House, the majority of the House that is in support of something, generally the House can work its will. But the important thing is we need to do so with urgency, because we have a month left until these tax credits expire, and then people are going to see this enormous cost increase.
Yeah, I think you and I will both agree, and most people would agree, that the people that are mostly affected by this are those 22 million Americans. But at the very same time, I'm taking a close look at the politicians out there that have upcoming midterm elections. This is a topic, this is an issue that voters are going to be weighing in on and thinking about when midterms roll around. Don't you think it's in the best interest of Republicans to find a solution and find it fast if they feel as if this might be what causes them to lose the midterms next year?
Well, sure. I think that anyone on either side of the aisle who allows their constituents to experience this sort of massive increase in costs, certainly, I think the constituents will hold them accountable. So that's why I've been saying to folks on our side of the aisle and to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle that doing nothing here simply is not a choice. And for Republicans in particular, I've been pointing out that we're doing this in a way that is fiscally responsible, that doesn't increase spending, doesn't increase the deficit, doesn't require raising taxes, that roots out fraud and overpayments to insurers, and also protects groups that really a lot of us have been fighting for, like independent contractors who have been targeted in a lot of ways in states like my state of California. And now suddenly they're going to see their healthcare costs suddenly double on top of everything else that they've had to deal with. So we've been having a lot of conversations, Sam Liccardo and I, with our colleagues on both sides. We're adding new bipartisan co-authors practically every day. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to get something done here by the end of the year.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.